Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smythe, could we have the sunshine statement and roll call, please?
Yes, this is the Wall Township Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meeting Act was provided by a notice to the Co-Star, Asbury Park Press, Township Clerk's Office, all Wall Township Public Schools, and a posting in the Board Administration Office on January 6, 2022. Take a roll call. Mr. Buffa?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Ms. Hodnett?
Here.
Mr. Maliff?
Here.
Mr. Nasser?
He is excused, and congratulations to our colleague for the birth of his beautiful baby last night.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
I'm here.
Ms. Stites?
Here.
Mr. Wondrak?
Here.
Mr. Adnezia?
Here. At this time, could I have a motion to go into executive session for letters A, D, G, and H on the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions, discussions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. We will be back at approximately 7:30 p.m. Good evening. We will reconvene the Wall Township Board of Education business meeting for Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please. I'm sorry. Roll call.
You got it. Mr. Buffa?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Ms. Hodnett?
Here.
Mr. Maliff?
Here.
Mr. Nasser?
I'd like to congratulate Mr. Nasser on the birth of his baby yesterday. That's why he is excused this evening, learning his new daddy duties.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
And a very happy Father's Day to him and all the fathers this weekend. I'm here.
Ms. Stites?
Here.
Mr. Wondrak?
Here.
Mr. Adnezia?
Here. We're going to do the color guard and Pledge of Allegiance, but I just ask everybody, once they're done, just to take a moment of silence. After our last business meeting, May 24th, as many of you are aware, there was a tragic shooting in Texas. 19 innocent children and 2 teachers lost their lives. Just absolutely horrible, horrible. These poor children, 9 to 11 years old, their lives didn't even get started, and it was robbed. So please keep them in your thoughts, keep their families in your thoughts, and pray that something like that never happens again. With that, please stand for flag. I would like to thank Mrs. Hollander and the choir. Could you tell us the names of our singers this evening? Thank you, guys. All right. Unfortunately, our student reps couldn't be here this evening, so I do have the report from Kyle Gerber. So his report is, good evening. I'm very sorry I cannot attend my last meeting as a student representative of the Board of Ed. I am currently training for my new job and wasn't able to get out of it. I wish I was able to say goodbye in person to everyone, but I'll have to wait until graduation now. I'm so happy that I was able to meet the people I did and make the connections with so many great people. I know my spot as a senior board representative will be left in good hands. Allie was amazing to work with, and I thank you for everything you did. I am so glad we became friends. Again, I'm sorry I was not able to be here, but thank you so much for the opportunity, and I hope all is well in the future. So I'd like to thank Mr. Gerber for his work here as the student rep for the Board of Education, and wish him well with graduation and all the exciting things he has in his future. And with that, I believe Mr. Davis is here to...
There he is.
Where is he? Oh, sorry. Son. Here to introduce our incoming board rep for the next school year.
Yeah. You want me to call them all up?
Yes, please.
All right. So Allie Cornello will be back as a board rep. She's not here with us tonight, but she'll be back. She'll be our head rep. And we've got 4 other students that will be joining us as reps next year. So when I call your name, just come on up and join me. Madison Brody. Christopher Daly. Lauren Gill. And Brandon Hughes. So every student had to apply. They had to go through an application process, get letters of recommendation from peers and teachers, and then they interviewed with a committee. Kyle was on that committee, so he served as one of the folks in here too. And they all did an amazing job. And blown away by what they had to say. And they share we're looking forward to working with all 40 students and Allie and Teresa. They bring a lot of variety of experiences from all over the school, all over the school life. We look forward to them sharing their reports with you and with the public. And we look forward to working with them next year. So congratulations again.
Congratulations. We look forward to seeing you in September. And until then, enjoy the rest of the school year and have a happy and safe summer. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, this evening, we are going to honor some retirees that have committed many years to the Wall Township school system. They've worked in a multitude of positions, and every one of them contributed to our student success. So without further ado, Dr. Handerhan.
Kind of like this. I like this style better. It's almost like I pretend I'm a rock star, you know? Pretend was the operative word. Okay. This is such a bittersweet event. Honoring people this evening that have spent, just such a big part of their lives with our school system. And it's, I like to reflect on, aspects of people's career. There are some people that have just given their heart, they have given their soul into, supporting the students and supporting colleagues. And I know that they will be missed. I know that, when some people put in their paperwork for retirement, usually there is a response, no, take it back, take it back. And it's such an honor to recognize, the soon-to-be retirees in such a meaningful way. And I thank you. I thank those of you that are here tonight, because it really, I think it's a nice piece. It's a nice closing activity, because there's nothing that's wrapped in that package that could possibly express our gratitude for all the work that you've done during your years of service for the Wall Township Schools. So, with that, it would be my honor to ask Ms. Karen Behringer to come on up. Ms. Behringer is one of our district custodians, and I cannot thank you enough for all of your service. If you could stay up, that would be great. That would be fantastic. This is a great photo op situation that we will take. Okay, may I ask Mr. Daniel Bozak? Mr. Bozak is a custodian at Old Mill School. Can't tell. Okay, next up is Mr. Anthony Iacobelli. And he was not sure if he could make it this evening, but he is a longtime member of our transportation department, so as a bus driver. So let's give him a shout out. I would love to have Miss Sally Kardashian up front, instructional para for Allenwood School. Thank you so much. And I would love to see Miss Deborah Konopka. There she is. Hanging with Mr. Davis. Ms. Konopka is actually, up until this winter, secretary at Wall High School. It's nice to see you again. Would Miss Carol Lauch from Wall Intermediate School, instructional para, come on down. I'd like to welcome Ms. Laura Mazaros, Spanish teacher at Wall High School. I'd like to welcome Ms. Stacy Saney from Wall Intermediate School, social studies teacher. And I'd like to welcome Ms. Karen Scheibler, family and consumer science at Wall High School. Okay. Again, I just wish to reiterate that, the hours, the days, the weeks, the year, the months, the years that you've spent working with our students, there really is there's no way we can possibly thank you enough. And I wish you the very, very best as you move on to your next chapter. And so I know after speaking to some of you, I know that you have so many exciting different pathways that you'll be taking in the near future. So congratulations. And I know Miss Daniel will be very upset with me if we don't ask for a giant picture. And there's obviously, oh, good. Oh. Okay, here she is, right here. Yep. Okay, great, thank you so much. And I did not know that Miss Donna Jessica Schmidt is here. She's secretary at Wall Intermediate School. I did not know that. Thank you so much. And here I thought she was just yelling at me about the picture, but actually, this is so much, this is such greater significance. Thank you so much. Okay, photo op.
Yes. Again, congratulations to all our retirees. That was just a small group of all the retirees this year. Unfortunately, you don't get a gold watch on the way out, but just know that you've touched hundreds, if not thousands, of lives during your time here in the Walls schools. And we appreciate it, and certainly all the students that have come through appreciate it. So thank you so much. We are moving on to a presentation on our possible referendum that we have coming up, a little bit of an overview. Good to go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Manser, and I'm the chairperson of the Facilities and Finance Committee. You're watching this video tonight because I'm unable to make a meeting. My wife and I welcomed a small 9-pound, 1-ounce boy from work last night. As you can see, I'm still packed up here because I'm headed back to the hospital after this. I recorded this video blessing the rest of the committee and the administration to give an update on where we are with our planning process and to give a quick overview of what the timeline will look like. First, let me introduce the team that's been working on this. Again, my name is Adam Manser, and I'm the chairperson of FNAP. I'm also a practicing licensed and certified school facilities manager, currently serving as the director of facilities for the Matawan Regional School District, and taking over as the director of facilities for the Middletown Public Schools next month. Also on the committee is Ralph Agnasio, our board president, Joe Hall, and Tom Butler, who is also a practicing licensed and certified school facilities manager. In coordination with Dr. Mandarin, Mr. Smythe, and Mr. Van Sickle, we've been evaluating and assessing the built environment of the district to understand and plan our needs to support operations in the future. I'm going to start with the question, why now? Why, with everything going on, are we looking to put out a series of questions to the public to take a vote on? It's a valid question that has a simple answer. Now is the best time to do it. Our charge and mission is to sustain the operations of the district. Sustainability is not a vague concept. It is very well defined within the model of the Triple Block 1. This visual representation illustrates the balance that we strive to achieve and encapsulates 3 different spheres of influence on the decision-making process that seeks to balance financial, social, and environmental needs within an organization. The goal is to come to conclusions that balance these 3 areas and result in a decision that falls into the center. Within the variables, there are multiple considerations. Under financial variables, the most important factor is that we have almost all of our debt being paid off this year. We would be looking to renew that debt in an environment with as low an interest rate as possible, as the interest rate is projected to increase to combat inflation right now. Included in this is rolling as many projects as possible into the scope of work that qualify for debt service aid. Debt service aid is money from the state that pays a portion of our coupon payments to bondholders until maturity. It currently sits around 40% of the payment. Under social variables is the changing instructional environment. There's an oft-repeated question that we get from the public as to why, over the last 10 years, with the decrease in enrollment, are we stretched for instructional space? The answer is that instructional programs have become more space intensive, and the functional capacities of buildings go down as instructional models change. Differentiated instruction requires more space, and as part of this process, we have looked at how to best use the space we already have. Part of that is through upgrades and improvements to classrooms and other social spaces. It is also through supporting the technical needs of students. The infrastructure challenges for this are unique to the accelerated evolution of technologies. Our goal is to put the foundation in place that will support these future generations of instructional technology so that we can continue to support the upgrades needed. Lastly, there are environmental variables that we must take into account. While we've slowly upgraded and added cooling capacity into the buildings, there is a need to replace aging equipment, specifically the boilers that are in many cases original to the buildings, and rooftop and other HVAC units that still rely on R22 for refrigerant. For the past decade, anyone with older or central AC in their house has felt the pain of significant increases in the cost of R22. We are no different. New equipment comes with R410A, a more environmentally friendly and efficient refrigerant. The original boilers that we operate have efficiency ratings in the 60 to 70% range. New commercial units now operate at up to 98% efficiency. When you spend as much as a school district does on utilities, numbers like this have big impacts on operational budgets. Finally, updating to current codes and methods means that indoor air and environmental quality improves. This is something that has a tangible effect on areas like test scores, absenteeism, and overall occupant satisfaction. As you can see, all of these things intersect to create a sustainable system. This next slide is a general list of the types of projects that would be included in referendum scope. Much of it is infrastructure related to the aging buildings. A quick primer, civil infrastructure projects have lifespans of 50 years, so many of the buildings are at or beyond the original design specifications. This is common in New Jersey and in the Northeast U.S. in suburban communities especially. Therefore, part of this involves taking a holistic view of extending the lifespan of the building systems to match as closely as possible with the maturity period of the bonds that will be issued. The projects include boilers and other HVAC components, roofing and window replacements, fire alarms and other critical life safety system replacements, classroom upgrades, auditorium upgrades, parking and site lighting upgrades, high school stadium and track upgrades and access improvements, bathroom and ADA upgrades, and last, electrical infrastructure upgrades. Currently, we are expecting to have 3 questions on the ballot, but the exact scope of each is still pending until we receive our final eligible cost commitments from the Department of Education. FEC letters will determine our final debt service calculations and will allow us to finalize the last step in the financial calculations and development of the scope. More detailed information will be distributed starting in September after the start of school. We plan on having town hall style meetings, walkthroughs with parents and community members, information kiosks and postings, and an online page with videos and information. If you would like to be part of our communications committee, please reach out to Dr. Andrew. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned. I hope you all have a great evening.
All right. So as time goes on, come September, we will have more information on this project that's greatly needed for our schools and our students. All right, so we have Students of the Month for the month of May. Grade 9, we have Sam Elliott. Grade 10, Ethan. Ethan, yeah, wow. Yeah, that was good. Ethan Roten, yeah. Am I sensing, is this all a little high school group there? Okay. Grade 11, Corey Ferris, and grade 12, Ian Fisher. Nights of the week for grade 9, Abigail Evans. Grade 12, Savannah Blacknall. Grade 10, Maxim Lynn. Grade 12, Mia DeGenova. And grade 12, Catherine Nuroff. Congratulations to all those students. And this was a we said it last month, but it was a pretty busy month. I had the opportunity to attend quite a few things here in the district, and I'm just going to touch on a couple things that I was able to go to. The first thing I want to mention is the CKF Light Up the Night, which took place May 31st. CFK is Crimson Night Foundation. They raised money to help offset projects here in the district. They did a fantastic job with their event. West Belmar School, congratulations to them. They won the 2022 Crimson Cup. The amount of school spirit that was out there was unbelievable, and it was just a great experience to be out there with so many students running around, smiling, having a good time. So that was a great event. Also had the opportunity to see our Wall Business and Finance Academy graduation, our Pre-Engineering Academy Foundation graduation. Just incredible things that these academies are doing, and these students are so well positioned for the future. Senior Awards Night, congratulations to all the seniors that received scholarships and awards. Another fantastic presentation done by our administration. And this past Friday, we brought back the Renaissance Lunch that a parent had brought up. And because of the COVID, we were unable to have it. We probably had about 400 people in attendance. Just incredible the amount of awards that were and recognitions that were given out. And I would like to thank our food service, who had a top-notch food presentation for everybody that was there. They did a fantastic job. So, and finally, this Friday, graduation. Congratulations to the class of 2022 and to our incoming freshman class that will be leaving the intermediate school. So it was a busy month, and I know Dr. Handerhan actually went to a few more things that I wasn't able to attend. And with that, Dr. Handerhan, good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Adonisio. Like you said, there are so many wonderful events that are taking place throughout the district. Today, I had the privilege of attending the Wall Primary School graduation, hottest ticket in town. It was amazing. If that doesn't warm your heart, an event like that, I can't imagine one that wouldn't warm it more. I would like to say that the class of 2035, they are a very impressive group. I know, I had to do the math. I had a pencil and a paper. 2035. I can't, but it's amazing, and it was such a wonderful day for the graduates. It was a wonderful day for their families, and congratulations to primary school staff and Ms. Bond for really putting together a wonderful and memorable ceremony for all the families and the graduates. This year, Robert Wood Johnson University Hospital, Hamilton, hosted the Congressional Art Competition. There were 50 works of art from Wall High School in the show, and this is a numbers game, and I really want you to stick with me on this. The overall show had 102 pieces of art that represented the 4th district. So we made up nearly half of the entries. And this is such a special competition that it's remarkable that one school from District 4 could represent just shy of half of the pieces that were represented. I would like to give a shout out to Nellie Bianchi. She received honorable mention. Paige Contreras earned 3rd place. Davin Kaminsky earned 2nd place. And Joseph Sambade, he was honored as Best in Show. That is such a big deal to be named Best in Show, and his artwork will hang in our Capitol in Washington, D.C. for 1 year, and it will be seen by over 1 million visitors to the Capitol. So a special thank you to the Wall High School Art Department and to Ms. Jill Alexander for her leadership in this endeavor. So incredibly impressive, and you know, it's absolutely a source of pride for the school district. Each year, schools are charged with reviewing the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, or HIB data and programming. Using the categories and metrics
provided by the New Jersey Department of Education, schools can receive up to 78 total raw points, with 78 being the highest score that can be achieved. The full breakdown for each category for each school is available on our district website, and it is in this meeting's agenda packet. The overall score for each of the district schools for the 2020-2021 school year are as follows. And I would like to reiterate that this is last year's data. You report out on a year, the cycle is a year behind. So Wall High School was 77 points, Wall Intermediate School 77 points, Allenwood Elementary School 76, Central School 77, Old Mill School 77, West Belmar School 75, and Primary School 72. And again, the NJDOE requires us to report out on this data a few times a year. And again, it's a year delayed, so that was last year's numbers. I am very pleased to announce that the Strategic Planning Community Survey is launched. The survey has been emailed to all members of the school community, and it's available on our district website. The Vision 2025 survey is an opportunity for every member of the Wall community to share their feedback and have their voice heard. This survey will be open until July 15th. I encourage all of you that are here this evening, please complete the survey. You may do so. You may represent different groups. You may be an employee, but you're also a parent in the district. I invite you to take the survey twice, each wearing through the lens of the different hats that you wear. So please, we are looking for feedback. We are looking for honest feedback, and we are looking for constructive feedback. So please take the time. It's 17 questions, and it'll probably take about 15 minutes. And it's something that is valued certainly by me, by the Board of Education, and our community at large. So it's really important that we do get the feedback. So please do your best to complete it before July 15th. And again, as I mentioned before, I just want to give a congratulations and best wishes to our soon-to-be retirees as they begin their next chapter. Good luck to all of our schools as they wrap up the school year and engage in many, many end-of-year activities. Mr. Adnesio described quite a few of them. I shared some, but I will tell you there are a lot more in store for our students as we wrap up the week. So best wishes to them as they wrap up their school year. And I would also like to extend best wishes to the class of 2022, and I will see you all at graduation. Mr. Adnesio?
Thank you, Dr. Handerhan. The art, that's incredible, because there's a lot of high schools in District 4, and I mean, we have, I say it meeting after meeting, but we have such talented students in our district, whether it's in the arts or music, whatever it might be, and it goes to the teachers that inspire our students. So congratulations to them. It's remarkable. Board of Education updates. We do not have any this month, except actually board members that non-conflicted. Make sure you do your superintendent questionnaire report. So that's the only thing on that. Committee reports have been posted online, and that's good. And now we will open up for public comment on agenda action items only. Just please come up to the microphone and give your name for the record.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Eric Laughlin, don't get nervous just because I'm out of
I'm sorry, just
It
your,
always gets to,
your-
sorry, Allison Beal. I'm a Wall Township resident. I'm also been a teacher at Old Mill School. Going on, next year will be 21 years. And I just want to say this. It was a long time when I was in elementary school, a long time ago. My kindergarten year was 1964. So, I know, it's been a long time. But the point I want to make is, I still remember my principal from those years when I was in elementary school. And my boys went through Old Mill before I was a teacher there. They're now grown with families of their own. They don't live in the area, or I would love for them to have also come through Old Mill School. With that being said, I just want to say that even though Eric Laughlin is leaving, the students at Old Mill that have come through, my boys did not have him as a principal at the time, but they still remember their principal. He will not be forgotten in those homes of any child that went through Old Mill and was blessed to have him as a principal. You see the positive vibe tonight from Old Mill staff. That has a lot. That has everything to do with Eric Laughlin. So I just want to wish him the best, and I want to tell Wall Intermediate School, you are lucky to have him coming your way if that's what ends up happening tonight. So thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jen Greener, Wall Township. I'm a teacher at Old Mill School, and I also have 2 children who attend the school. For the past 15 years, I've had the honor of working for Mr. Laughlin. Throughout my time here as both a first grade teacher and 5th grade teacher, I've had the opportunity to experience what a positive impact he's made on our school. I think I speak for many, if not all, when I say that Mr. Laughlin has always made staff feel respected and valued. His door is always open for teachers to pop in, to ask a question, seek clarification, fill him in on daily happenings, or sometimes just talk if needed. We as his staff will miss him tremendously and hope that the Wall Intermediate School community know just how lucky they are to have him. As a parent, I am extremely grateful that my children have had Mr. Laughlin as their principal for these past few years. My oldest is going into 4th grade, so the silver lining is that she will hopefully have him again in a little over 2 years. I truly appreciate how involved he's always been as the principal. You can always find Mr. L supporting school events, from emceeing the popular Old Mill School Fun Run, attending band or chorus concerts, dressing up at Halloween, organizing a staff/school pre-Christmas break scavenger hunt, and most recently, and very successfully, might I add, hosting and corralling what seemed like hundreds of kids at the Bulldog Dance last Friday night. It really makes such a positive impact on the kids to see their principal at all of these events. We pride ourselves at OMS in having a positive school environment because we know the effect it has on the students, staff, and community. So, as a teacher and parent, I thank you, Mr. Laughlin.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. Just wondering, taking a look at the agenda for some of the votes tonight, I was kind of surprised to see Eric Laughlin on there when you haven't even determined what's happening with the other principals. So I think that's something that should be tabled tonight, because until you know who's coming into every school, to do this piecemeal is just making things look worse. I'm a parent that didn't have the greatest experiences in Old Mill. I mean, we had some crazy stuff. My son was injured. They were using cement blocks as bases. And I have a picture of that, and I'll send it to you, Ms. Handerhan, because I had sent it to the prior superintendent. He couldn't believe it. That was when Dan was here. Kids were throwing lunch bags around, falling, crazy stuff. And that's just one. So many parents have had issues at Old Mill. And
excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and your time is this
Wait,
necessary?
where was the time?
I'm just wondering, I feel like
Where
all
is
of the
the time
teachers
clock?
from Old Mill are here to
Where is
celebrate.
the time clock? This is my time, not your time.
There's clocks everywhere.
Where's
Mrs.
the
Cross.
clock? Where's the 5-minute clock?
I
just-
have it.
Where? Why don't we see it?
I wonder at the relevance of this, considering all the teachers from Old Mill are here to celebrate their principal.
That's great.
And you're bringing up things that
and
happened.
I'm a member of the public, and I
How
can
long
say what I
ago?
want.
How long, is your
It
child
doesn't
in
matter.
Old Mill? Why ruin a good
Do you
night?
have children even?
Why do you care?
Do you have children?
Ms. Cross,
I guess no. I don't think you have children, so I'm not sure why you're on the
it's
board.
nobody's business who has children
Okay,
and who
well then
doesn't.
don't go after my kid. Got it? Got it? I'm telling you a story of what happened to my son and was injured, and another kid got injured on the same cement blocks and had staples in his head. So how dare you, Kristen Hodnett?
Ms. Cross, address the chair, please, and
Yeah.
go
well,
back to your
if she
story.
starts addressing me, go back to my story. Yeah. Other parents have had horrible, horrible things happen at Old Mill. This vote should be tabled. I don't know if you put the names in a hat of anybody that's available and pulled out the name. That's what people are wondering. How did you come up with this? How many people did you interview? Let's all have it written down so everybody knows what you did. Because this is ridiculous. And now for Tom Rideau, we haven't had any type of update on what is happening. Now we just know Tom Rideau is coming back as assistant vice principal. 2 of the football players are being shoved around. One's going to intermediate, one's going to Old Mill. Are they in work now? If you have decided they're capable of coming back to school, to work, starting in July, they should have been in on Monday, once we saw that agenda. We do not have the money to sit home and pay people to do nothing while you people up here, nobody knows what you're doing. And this referendum presentation, that was a joke. People were sending me pictures of it. This is ridiculous. You don't even have an amount on here, I don't think. This will never pass. Never in Wall Township. Because you don't know, Mr. Smythe can't explain where the last 40 million went. And this is embarrassing to put this out. And all the other things that he owes, I did write the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office. I didn't have a response back. I will post my email, and I hope Lori Linsky replies. And I am glad to see Brian Smythe's contract is not on here tonight, like it was shoved up last year when it wasn't approved. So normally it's in the June agenda. Thank God it's not on there, because you didn't approve last year's yet. And James Hable went to jail for things similar, and we have to figure out why Brian Smythe's contract got online, giving him extra vacation days, signed by Ralph Adonisio, shoved up online, and nobody knew about it. People are disgusted. The Titanic is sinking. You cannot just swap around teachers and figure out, put the other names in a bag and figure out what's going to happen next. We are talking about children and their education, not some, we don't even have the attorney here tonight. I mean, how could you be in the back room discussing things without an attorney present? This is like the Athena and Tracy S show with Ralph running it. You should not be voting on this tonight, and when you do vote on it, separate it. So it's separated when you say we're voting for Eric Laughlin, so we hear all your votes carefully. There should be no abstentions. Nobody should abstain. It's either yes or no. Same for Tom Rideau. And we need investigations. We need the comptroller's office in. The F&F minutes from Mr. Nasser were a joke. I mean, talking about, the peanuts, just a couple of small items, and then the attorney bills. The attorney bills were budgeted of $125,000. They came in over $200,000.
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your time is up.
Did you deduct my time when Kristen Hodnett was talking at my time?
Well,
Did you deduct
the
it?
clock was paused. Your time is up. Thank you.
You should have the clock over here so we see it.
Is there anybody else for public comment?
Lisa Ventrella. I'm an Ocean Township resident, but I teach at Old Mill. I wasn't planning on getting up and speaking, and I can talk to elementary school students to my heart's desire and no problem. A group of adults is a totally different story. So please pardon the shaky voice and the shaky hands. My son is in kindergarten this year in Ocean. We are very happy. But there was very long, thoughtful consideration about the option of putting him in as a tuition-in student to Old Mill. And it was a decision we ultimately decided not to do because I'm 25 minutes from school, and if he wants to play with kids, that's 25 minutes both directions on a constant basis. And so we decided to stick with our neighborhood school. But the reason was based primarily because of the leadership that I have seen in the 5 years that I have been in Old Mill. It is because the experiences that I have had as a teacher, that I have seen other teachers have, and that I have seen students have, and because I wanted that for my son. And so given everything, I just want the board to recognize the huge loss that we feel we are having, but the incredible gain that the intermediate school will get if it is voted upon tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? Don't be shy. I know teachers are shy. I see you sinking down in your chairs. All right. We'll close public comment. I want to clarify a couple things. I'm going to start with confidentiality when it comes to employees and things that are done. The board is legally precluded from discussing certain issues in public setting in any manner, which includes student matters and personnel matters. So people can get up and ask 1,000,001 questions about personnel things. By law, we cannot comment on them. So I wanted to clarify that. We have discussed this numerous times over the last several months and certainly over the last several years, Mr. Smythe's contract. So as required, Mr. Smythe's contract was approved by the Executive County Superintendent on June 10th, 2021. The Board of Education then approved the contract at its next regularly scheduled meeting on June 15th, 2021. The allegations that Mr. Smythe's contract is illegal are patently false. And just for the record, the speaker that was saying that attended the June 15, 2021 board meeting and provided public comment on Mr. Smythe's contract. So it was voted on. It was listed on the agenda. And also, go a little further, the process, clarification of the process. Business administrator contracts are for a period of 1 year. Superintendents are multiple years. Teachers, once you're tenured, you get a contract every year, but you're protected. Each year, the Executive County Superintendent approves the contract first, then the board approves the contract at its public meeting. So contract goes to the county superintendent, he looks at it, then it gets kicked back to the Board of Education. This is the same process unless an existing contract is being amended. An amended contract requires public notice, posting of a copy of the contract, as well as a discussion at the meeting. Unlike an expiring contract that is not being amended, a new contract is not subject to the same process. So Mr. Smythe's contract was approved last year. It's getting approved this year. It gets listed on the agenda. There's no special hoops to jump through because it was already approved. Also, Mr. Smythe, we've heard this before, not knowing where the last $40 million went for the referendum. And could you give the audience some details on how we spent $40 million? The previous board spent $40 million in district on repairs and different things?
I can, however, I was not the business administrator at the time. It was actually, the referendum was in 1998 that was approved. The referendum included additions at the high school, the intermediate school, and each of the elementary schools included additions, and that was plus interior renovations in all the school buildings.
One of those was the gym at this school, correct? Was
yes,
that part of it?
It would be the North Gym at this school. It's also the science wing at this school. the extension of C-Wing and E-Wing at this school, the athletic facilities. It's the back science room at the intermediate school. Old Mill, it's the computer lab, which is the addition at the end of the school on the second floor. So each of the schools didn't receive, Allenwood received a very large addition. All the newer sections of the building were part of the 1998 referendum.
Okay. Thank you. And so everyone knows, $40 million goes very quick. Doesn't even.
And I would say, you know, to expand a little bit further on Mr. Nasser's comments with regard to the referendum and the accounting of a referendum, you know, it's accounted for separately. It is submitted and approved by the Department of Education. One of the biggest benefits of a referendum is the state aid a district receives. If we were to look to do capital improvements simply on an annual basis in the annual school budget, we do not receive any aid or any state assistance with the projects. However, when you go out for a referendum and it's approved by the voters, if the projects are eligible, and that's the process we're in right now, if they're determined eligible by the Department of Education, we could receive up to 40% funding from the state. So 40% of the cost of our project could be funded by the State Department of Education. So that is one of the main reasons, aside from just going to the voters and the community having a say in the, because it will impact the tax levy. However, one of the biggest benefits from a financial standpoint is the assistance you receive, the aid we receive from the Department of Education with a referendum.
Could you give an example? Because we hear this all the time, and we're used to it, but someone that maybe doesn't hear it and understands state aid, could you give an example of a project, how much it might cost if we tried to fund it through the budget, and then through a referendum if it was approved, and then we receive 40% state aid, what that all translates into?
Well, you know, obviously there's work that's going to be identified that's needed in the district. I mean, we are a corporation. We have facilities. We need to maintain them, and we need to improve them based on, you know, the district's mission, the strategic plan. So there's two ways to do that, where we would do it on an annual basis, or we would do it through a referendum. If the project qualifies, and what we mean by qualify is if it's determined to be impacting the education within the school district. So if it's affecting educational space within the schools, and that would qualify for debt service aid. So for every $100 that you would spend, the state is going to pay $40 of it, and the district is going to pay $60 of it. And when you expand that to millions of dollars, that's a lot of money. Projects that would not qualify would be, for example, paving of parking lots. So some comment that we have included in the 22-23 year budget, paving of the high school student lot. If anybody parked in it and walked across, you could see why. But one of the reasons we included a project like that in the 22-23 budget is because if we included that in the referendum, we would not receive debt service aid. We would not receive aid for that type of project. So that project, it makes no difference whether we do it in an annual school budget or a referendum. However, renovations to interior space in the buildings, the classrooms, installing HVAC, replacing boilers, you know, projects that impact the educational space are eligible for the 40% funding. And what the stage we're at now is the projects have been submitted or still in the process of being submitted to the Department of Education for approval. Once we receive we will receive correspondence from the Department of Education advising us what projects qualify and to what extent they qualify, and based on that information, we'll be able to determine the best way to structure the referendum with the type of projects that would be in each of the questions, and then from that we would be able to identify what the cost of those projects would be, the local share as well as the state share.
Thank you, Mr. Smythe.
Well,
And finally, just so everyone's aware, a comment was made back room. What we do at the beginning of the meeting and sometimes at the end of the meeting, depending if there's certain things that we go into executive session for, litigation, personnel matters, it's listed on the agenda, student matters, it's listed on the agenda every month. You know, before we opened up our meeting at 6:15, We started with a Pledge of Allegiance, and then we went into executive session. So for tonight, for instance, it was confidential matters per state statute or court order, collective bargaining, litigation or contract matters, client privilege, and then personnel matters. We have those listed on the agenda every single month. Sometimes our executive sessions run late, and we go back in at the end of the business meeting. It's called an executive session. It's not a meeting in a back room, and it fully complies with the law. And the attorney does not need to be present, so everybody's clear. Also, the attorney doesn't need to even be present at our business meetings, but we do usually have an attorney present at our meetings. And just so everybody's aware, every time an attorney's sitting here, it costs us, the district, money. They're nice people, they do a good job for us, but it does cost us money. So if there's a reason for them not to be here, we let them stay home. Yes, Dr. Handrian.
Thank you, Mr. Adonisio. I was a principal for many years, and I will tell you, great principals put their hearts and their souls into the buildings that they lead. And I will tell you that I can't imagine a more significant celebration of Mr. Laughlin's leadership than to have so many members of his staff come out tonight. It's a busy time of year. Come out tonight to support him, to herald him, to share some stories, share why he's so significant to them. That there is, I will tell you, that nothing is better than that, because the work of a principal is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and to have your staff come out to support you, there is no greater gift for a building principal. And I want to applaud the Old Mill staff. I think they are fantastic, and they are here because they support someone who is going to be, pending the vote tonight, an exceptional intermediate school principal where he has the ability to reach more children in number and more staff in number. Old Mill School faculty and staff, I'm sorry. It's my fault. And I apologize to you, and because I know how great of a leader he is, and I am so grateful that you came out tonight to express that, because he deserves it, and I thank you.
Mrs. Hodnett, did you have something?
I just wanted to do a point of clarification. In the timeline for information presented for the referendum update from the hospital room, Mr. Nasser shared with us that additional information and more detailed information will be available in September 2022, which is why it didn't seem very detailed.
Yes, thank you. All right. Could I have a motion for approval for the executive session minutes of May 17th, 2022, and the business meeting minutes of May 17th, 2022?
I can grant that.
Motion, Ms. Hodnett. Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Mr. Wondrak. Any questions, discussion? No? Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Buffer?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hodnett?
Yes.
Mr. Mallon?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Adenizio?
Yes. Could I have a motion for approval for second reading of policy 1648.15 and 2417?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, Mr. Hall. Could I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Malouf. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hodnett?
Yes.
Mr. Mallon?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Buffer?
Yes.
Mr. Adenizio?
Yes. Could I have a motion for our consent agenda for number 13, 14, and 15, which is number 12 on the agenda? Could I have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
Motion, Mr. Sanfilippo. Could I have a second? Second, Mr. Buffa.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Ms. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Mallon?
Yes, with the following abstentions due to conflict. 14A, number 7, items 6 and 7, and number 14 regarding intermediate school coaches. Yes on all other items.
Noted. Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Buffa?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Agnesi?
Yes. This time we will open up for public comment on any school-related issue. Please come up to the microphone and give your name for the record.
Sally Baglioni, I'm a Wall Township resident, and I have one child in the Old Mill School and one in the intermediate school. Next year I will have 2 students in the intermediate school. Coming from the business community, my husband's a teacher, but I am not. I do understand the confidentiality of HR issues, and I've talked to many parents over the course of weeks who think because they are taxpayers that they should have a right to say who does what and what principal goes where, and I understand that that isn't the case. Obviously, giving the dozen or so crying teachers in the room, Mr. Laughlin's record speaks for itself. But I do think that parents, obviously these staff members, and the Board of Education's biggest customer, the students, should have the right to know who is going to be replacing Eric and who's going to be put in the high school. I'm not there yet, but you know, it will affect me eventually. And to leave the school year on Friday, kind of not knowing what's going to happen, I feel like the swirling, crazy discussion on the beach just blows some of this up to a proportion that isn't necessary. So if the board could consider, you know, giving that information to their valued, you know, employees, as well as the customers of the district, which are the students, we would really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mary Connors, Wall Township. I'm up here just quickly want to say to back up my friend Sally. I welcome Mr. Laughlin to the Wall Intermediate School. I have to say that I have no experience with you. We're an Allenwood family, but when my oldest entered intermediate school, she became part of a cute little society of Old Mill girls, and she is an honorary Old Mill bulldog that dresses as a dragon. So thank you. I hope you carry that friendliness through. I have to say, whenever I interact with children at intermediate and high school, I kind of could tell a bulldog. They kind of stand out, and I'm happy to have him at intermediate for my youngest. I do want to, you know, just on a personal note, want to say something positive on our previous intermediate school principal. My oldest two had an amazing, successful, and incredibly empowering time at Wall Intermediate School under Erin Embaum. And I just don't think she should go out without people expressing how wonderful she was to our children, how she knew each child's little idiosyncrasies, pushed them to out of their comfort zone if she knew it was good for them, and then she would actually then be the first one to applaud them when they succeeded in the direction she pushed them. So I know that you can't talk confidentiality, all of that, but I can't let her leave without saying how much my family personally adored her, loved her, respected her, and she'll be greatly missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Hi, Michelle Galvin, Wall Township. I am a new Wall Township resident, and my family just moved into the Allenwood section. And we were shocked to find out that there seems to be an issue with the capacity in the elementary schools when trying to register our child for kindergarten for the upcoming school year. So I've spent the past week and a half trying to get some more information, trying to get some answers. I haven't been successful. But so I really want to know from all of you what's going on with the future of the elementary schools being able to house their neighborhood children. I know for myself, I have a 5-year-old that is not only in a new town, but is being told that now she can go in a new town to a part of town that she's never even seen. That's about 15 to 20 minutes away from her home. And it's, you know, she's 5. It brings on anxieties that, you know, as a parent are hard to accept. And it creates difficulties with her emotional and, you know, mental and social well-being as well when we think about the extra time that it's going to take coming from school, what is it going to keep her from, and what kind of community relationships is she going to be able to build in her neighborhood when she's not even in school with kids that live closest to her. I have 3 more kids that will be coming in behind her. Will they be able to go to the same school? These are all questions that I've been trying to get the answers to, and I've not had responses to pretty much any of my phone calls or emails. And I'd like to get those answers. Again, one being just new in the district and being a little bit blindsided by this, but also just as a parent in general. I'm obviously concerned about my child's education and their all the other aspects, their social, emotional, and mental health as they go through their adolescence and their educational experience here in Wall Township. So I'd like to know if any of you can give me some of those answers that I've been seeking.
We'll address them after public comment. We'll go into it.
And I do have one more thing I would like to address that I didn't get answers to as well. I asked for some specific numbers regarding Allenwood Elementary. I didn't get a response on that as well. As far as the classes, the amount of kids in each class for the kindergarten next year specifically. And I did my own investigation since I didn't get any answers. And what I found is that there's likely to be 3 classes for kindergarten, each of 23 kids per class. If that is indeed correct, what I've been told is that there's no room for my child at the school, but that doesn't seem to be true since 25 would be the number per class. So I would like to have an answer on those numbers. And also I asked about the amount of kids on the wait list and what number on the wait list my child is. I know it might not seem like a big deal because everyone kind of brushed it off as my child can still go somewhere in the district, but it is important to, obviously, parents. I've been told other people are in my boat. I don't know specifically how they feel, but I know it's a big deal for us and for our child's well-being, and I would like to have the information, and I would like to know what is going to be done going forward, a short-term plan for what's going to happen for these elementary students to be housed in their neighborhood school, but also the long-term plan, because I don't think people are going to stop having children. You know, houses have been built in the area, and the schools seem to not be able to keep up with that demand if these numbers are in fact true.
Thank you. And just let you know, we do have a person on the board, Mr. Hall, who did attend 3 of the 4 elementary schools in Wall. It's kind of a rare person. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Good evening, Melanie Cortese, Wall Township. First, I want to say I echo the sentiments to, praise Erin Embon. She definitely helped us when we were new to the township with anxious children, and it's all confidential. I get it. It's just, it really is heartbreaking that one of their biggest cheerleaders was not there through this month for all of their events, and so there's that. But also another minute to recognize and appreciate all the teachers, the bus drivers, the nurses, the support staff. It's another upside down school year we had. So many took on extra tasks when asked. They kept control in the classroom and also personally dealt with the fallout from the November events that happened here. Parent concerns, complaints, and frustration, legit though they were, surely made their job more challenging. So I appreciate, having the dialogue with the ones that I did. For those who stuck it out and kept our kids safe and educated and fed and transported and more, I offer thanks. It's very clear our district is only as strong as our teachers and staff. So as we wrap up this year, it is my plea to the board, all of you, that this summer, please be the leaders that this district and this town needs in this time of moving forward. There's no more, our hands are tied, it's Governor Murphy's decision. These are things that are happening in Wall Township. Will we give the press opportunities to descend on these high school students entering the building every morning once again? Or will a strong and encouraging message be sent about the direction of the football team and athletics and bullying in our community? Will you share with confidence and reassurance to all concerned your plan for all these principal reassignments? Will there be clear and detailed communication about curriculum changes, which are hugely concerning to parents? Please do not hide or deflect. Do not give a reason to say things are being swept under the rug. Many of you are not parents to district students. Step away from your leadership position. Put yourself in the position of the parents and the community of Wall Township. We don't have to agree on solutions. There has to be understanding, communication, and respect, and it needs to begin with each of you at this table. 2 more things. Parents at the intermediate school need more information about this new plan that was emailed to us sooner rather than later. Perhaps this is a positive change, but parents haven't been given enough information to fully understand it. My concern is that with the leadership changes coming, there will be reasons to push this off. No discussion with the parents. Once again, we need communication and dialogue. And please, please start streaming these meetings again. It is such a disservice to the community to keep them offline. Parents who would be here right now, I know this for a fact, are working for PTOs, community organizations, sports teams, and other important commitments. It's not just laziness. It's not just doing something else. These are people who are community leaders. They would be watching from their car while they're waiting in practice at the PTO, stuffing baskets for the senior picnic. It's just not always possible to be here. It's weak and it's petty leadership to punish the community for the actions of a few. Again, understanding, community, and respect, it needs to begin with each of you at this table, please, this summer. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to be clear on that, our meetings are posted online. They're recorded, but they're recorded and put online after, just in case we have to put up a warning for content.
Mary Connors, Wall Township. I forgot, I had sent an email earlier, maybe the last meeting of May, about the senior walk. I had been approached by parents that they weren't sure it was going to happen because since COVID and the whole thing. And because I had started that dialogue with the previous superintendent, I think it was in 2016, and to Cheryl's credit, she put it in immediately. From May to June, we had a senior walk. And in my short-sightedness, what I didn't include was families like myself who one of their children chooses to go to one of the Monmouth County vocational or a private school or a prep school, an alternate high school, doesn't get to do the senior walk at their elementary and middle school. And that was my short-sightedness. And apparently, you know, since 2016 to current COVID time, parents said their students really felt left out. And it left me feeling responsible for that, because it was my post that got Cheryl to approve it. And it made me feel really sad that I made children feel left out, because I always try to preach inclusion. And then looking forward, in 4 years, I will have left my own son out if he doesn't get to walk the halls of Allenwood and Wall Intermediate School. So I don't know. I did send an email to the principal, the acting principal at Mr. Davis. Is that his name? I don't even know. And he replied that it was being worked on, but he didn't get back to me with any details. And also, I'm trying to think what else I had. We had two, and I was listening in on the lawsuit on that Betsy Cross has, Wall versus Betsy Cross versus Wall, and they keep mentioning 2 class action suits, and I still don't know what these 2 class action suits are. And before we vote on a referendum, I think we need to know what we are up against on these 2 class action suits before I go to the ballot and I vote for $40 million or whatever the mentioned is. I need to know what we're going to be paying out in 2 class action suits, and if I could be a part of it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall. Yeah, I did want to mention my lawsuit. I filed it last June 7th, 2021. Haven't heard anything in months. Last 2 calls were with the attorneys. Ringing up lots of bills, still not turning over information. Mr. Smythe still won't redact information on the trailers because there were so many problems with that. You know, if your investigation's over, you know there's a problem because your own attorney won't sign it and they will not put it on their business letterhead. So it's not going away. And we know that you put my son's picture in it and you had to take it down. And if it was legal, Mr. Smythe and Tracy Handren actually got a copy of it. You would have thought that they would have said to take the picture down, but you didn't. So you had to have a court order to take it down. And that is shown. Anybody can see that online. The judge made you take it down. So the nonsense from Athena Cornell that you were allowed to do it is just a complete lie. You don't get to take pictures from Facebook and pretend that you're your own, and you can put them in there even for minor children. So the nonsense of we're here to protect children is nonsense. You protect the ones that you want to protect, and you target the ones you don't want to. Lots of emails came back that Brian Smythe hid from the Star Ledger for 7 months. On 11/3, there was an email that definitely with regard to the football hazing, and it was November 3rd, and it came from someone to Kevin Davis, and then it said that this email Kevin will share with the police. Then there's one to Ralph Adonisio. Everything is all redacted. I don't know if the camera can see this over there, but it's 11/9. Everything's redacted. And what we know is if your investigations are over, you just can't redact everything. You can redact names, but you can't redact. You can't have blank black pages over and over again. So like I wrote to the prosecutor's office, I don't think Wall wants another lawsuit. You haven't even finished this one. So you got to get this moving. 11/10, Tracy Handerhan writes, Dear High School facility, faculty and staff, as you may be aware, a criminal investigation is pending regarding hazing allegations. Please do not discuss this matter with students and staff. On 11/16, Tom Rideau has a meeting with the football players, and he has talking points. And after getting this, I'm saying, why is he meeting with football players? You're told there's a criminal investigation. It says right here, do not talk to students and staff. And Tom Rideau, who is now the new, you just voted for him to be the assistant principal, was talking with students. So why, Tracy Handerhan, are you putting him up for this? Like you said, this was your choice for Eric. This was your choice for Tom. Are you reading your own emails? Where is the timeline? Athena had a timeline attached. We need to see it. Looks like, you know, there were subpoenas coming in. Until we see a timeline, these people cannot be in charge of children. There was one from Eric Laughlin. It said, please call me. Pages of redactions. Tracy says she's only directed to send the email to high school staff, which proving she's not in charge. The attorney is. Why do we even have a superintendent? The attorney's running the district. Pages and pages, black, 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 black. Look at this, ridiculous. So you need to go back and unredact these, because I will keep sending them and keep sending them and keep sending them. And then, you know, nonsense complaining about Oprah requests. If you answered questions and you didn't have all these problems you put on yourselves, you wouldn't have Oprah requests. But since you hide everything, people have to get the information. Lots of Hibs. Another drug possession, 9 days. Like I've said, is this the first time the person did it or the 5th time the person did it? I heard the person that something that happened in intermediate school got suspended. Next week, suspended again. Like, how many times do we just let these people come back? But when you hide it like this, instead of it said third offense, and maybe you'd look to get them help, the help they need, that's the reason you're here. Attorney bills you see, you know, now dwindling down on the football. So if everything's done, we need to see a timeline. We need to see a timeline of what happened, of why you're bringing these people back, and why you're putting them in charge of children. Sean Cranston, be sure the new HR contract does not allow somebody to cash out vacation pay that doesn't even finish out their first school year. We gave him a $66,000 raise, and he had the nerve to ask to cash out. He got a $66,000. You're shaking your head, Tracy. Our last HR person made
Thank you, Ms. Cross. Your
$89,000.
time is up.
The new
Your
one
time is up, Ms.
made
Cross.
$155,000.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Moran. I'm a Wall Township resident. I have 3 children at Wall Township schools, 2 at intermediate and 1 at Central. I'm writing to you as a parent who feels hopeless and alone in regards to my children's safety. I've lost all faith in Wall Township schools. My daughter is an 8th grader who attends Wall Intermediate School. My story goes back 4 years ago when I moved to Wall. I moved for the schools, I'm a teacher myself, and I thought that Wall would be able to offer my children more opportunities for learning. I learned that although there may be more resources, more field trips, that may come with a price. Unfortunately, many students are paying that price in this district. In my daughter's 4th grade year, she was constantly getting picked on by a girl. For no reason, she became a target, along with her twin sister. In April of that year, I received a disturbing phone call from a parent. This parent informed me that a child in the class wanted to get a gun from home and shoot her in the head. I immediately contacted the school and put my faith in their decision as to how to proceed. Clearly, I did not want my daughter in a class with this child. My child should not have to move classrooms. I was told the opposite. As per the prior superintendent, my daughter should switch her class for her own safety. Apparently, this student had anger issues and did not want to be separated from her twin sister. I was beyond shocked that the school could not deal with a child with anger issues. That's concerning that with all the resources Wall has to offer, it was still my daughter's best interest to move classes, and so I had to. That girl, by the way, just came back from assaulting somebody on the school bus. Fast forward to 6th grade, where an incident was reported with my daughter. I don't want to get into specifics, but again, I was deeply dissatisfied with the district's decisions to basically brush it off as if it didn't happen. I later found out that the reason this incident was brushed off was because kids didn't want to snitch, and so they kept quiet. Why do kids feel like they cannot snitch? Fast forward to June 3rd of this year. My daughter had a great year, a year of smiles and positivity. She enjoyed coming to school and was recently knighted. But on that June 3rd, my daughter was involved in a scary situation. 2 girls that attend Wall Intermediate School decided it would be fun to fight my daughter. They found her at the beach in Manasquan, while screaming disgusting threats and telling my daughter over and over again that if she didn't come out of the arcade, they would drag her blank out. They screamed this over and over. Luckily, the owner of the arcade kicked them out and locked my daughter inside. He did it for her safety. After police arrived, he told them that my daughter would have gotten very hurt if he did not lock her in. Police filled out a report, which has been turned over to the school, as well as Wall PD. Unfortunately, that night, a boy who also attends WIS gave the police officers the phone numbers of the girls who fled the scene. What a kind thing to do, having good character that we teach our students. Well, that boy got punished for doing that good deed. About 2 hours after attempting to hurt my daughter, those two girls found him at a nearby park and proceeded to beat him up. This took place in front of many kids. It was taped and it was shared online that very night on social media. I have the video, if you would like, that has also been turned over to authorities as well as the superintendent and the schools. You would think that those girls would have some form of consequence given. No, not at all. You see, I didn't realize that if you commit a crime 2 miles away in Manasquan, the school cannot impose discipline. Parents were informed that any 8th grader who has any type of violation of the student code of conduct would have privileges taken away. Privileges like the 8th grade formal, the 8th grade picnic, even graduation ceremonies. No, not Wall Township School District. You would think that if a student who may not even reside in Wall and who may have a juvenile record at a prior school for fighting, you would think that 2 assaults in one night would be enough to get a picnic taken away. No, not Wall Township School District. You would think that at the very least the school would make sure the 2 offenders would not have any type of contact in the school, that they would be watched at all times because they have a lengthy history of fighting inside the school. They like fighting. Not at Wall Township School District. In Wall, you can still pound your fist over your hand at a victim and still go to a picnic. You can give intimidating glares in a cafeteria and still attend formal. You can even go to the victim's classroom, not once, but twice, and lock eyes with the victim, and you still get all the fun. I'm being told to trust administration and that my daughter's safety is a top priority. But how can I when my daughter is sending me a message that she's outside at lunch and not one adult was around? How can I when I try to call the school during school hours and no one picks up? We know there needs to be changes in the district. I don't want to be asked by administrators if I will or won't have my daughter attend Wall High School. My answer is yes. My daughter has a right to learn in that school. I live in this town, I pay taxes in this town, and we are well aware that the schools need to be fixed. I refuse to let this district do wrong by my daughter anymore. Change starts at the top. Every single day I have been in contact, meetings, emails about this with administration. Isn't it time to show that this district will no longer be known for all of these negative things online, in papers, and on the news? We wonder why we see the negative behaviors in kids, because they watch and they learn. They learn that they can fight, have a video, but the school can't impose any discipline because it happened outside of school. They learn that no one checks the cameras. They learn that you don't snitch or you get punished for it. They learn that they can get 2 police reports in one day and still get to attend the high school cheer tryouts 3 days later and make the team. Do better. I will not allow you to fail my children. I have a couple more celebrations that my daughter deserves to go to and not look over her shoulder and not flinch and not use the restroom in fear that she will be physically assaulted. My daughter deserves to go to these things without these 2 animals that attacked her and another boy. It's time to change. And from what I'm hearing, there's really a lack of transparency. And I didn't get it until I'm experiencing it myself. I urge the administration, use the cameras at school efficiently. Watch the cameras. I can give you so many dates of hallways and what time of the day. How is it that my children see fights all the time? But when I ask administration about it, they're unaware because no one reports it. Kids don't report it in fear of what happened to my daughter and that young boy who tried to help. I ask that the board please be in touch with administration to see if there is any possible way to get at least one privilege, the formal, taken away. One. They already have gotten the picnic and everything else. They're all back at school in the same building as my daughter, still making intimidating gestures and remarks. It needs to stop. I won't stop as a parent. I will not. And I have more children coming through Wall Intermediate School. That school needs a change. And just so that it's on the record, I asked Mr. Hewitt the day after this came out, and he told me he had a 7th grade daughter. And I asked him, would you feel comfortable with your daughter walking the hallways at WIS? He did a little giggle because I think he was nervous. And he replied, no. It needs to change. It needs to change. Because kids are talking, parents are talking, and we are watching.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? Is there, please stop yelling out. Please stop yelling out. Please stop yelling out. Is there anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. I want to clarify. I'm sorry, didn't see you. That's not true, Ms. Cross.
Hi, Lauren Cuna. I had a list here I wanted to talk about, but quite honestly, after listening to this parent, this is an endemic of this community. It happened at the football team. It's happening in the WIS school. What is going on? We need leadership. We need the administrators to understand, to follow up, to help these parents, to help these kids. And you sit there stoic and you don't reply and you don't have a town hall. Where's the town hall? I think it's been 1.5 years since I've asked. It's very frustrating as a parent to send our children here when we hear things like this. Can you put yourselves in our shoes? Our children go to these schools day after day, and we expect safety and education and social stability. And then these things happen, and it's brushed under the rug, maybe? A lawsuit, maybe? Principals get shifted around, people get shifted around. What is going on? Where's your accountability to us? Some other points I had meant to make. I understand there's changes at the middle school regarding the interdisciplinary program. I understand that Ms. Steiner had presented that in May. I understand my son found out about it before I did. I got a PowerPoint presentation and information that we'll get to you, we'll give you some information later, dear parent. I'd like to ensure that as a parent and these changes with the principals this summer, that this does not get brushed under the rug. I would like to know how my kid's schedule will change, what's the impact, I'm just concerned with all these changes, this will get pushed aside. I'd also like to understand the curriculum changes. I know they're being rewritten. I'd like to note that I do look at the curriculum, I look at the resources that are used, and I did have a conversation with Mrs. Embaum back in September about lesson plans, because when the curriculum is written and resources are offered, what I don't get to see is the deep dive into the lesson plan, and sometimes I would like to know, well, how much is something going to be drilled into, and how much is something not going to be drilled into? I don't know, because it's really not available. And I was told that lesson plans are considered confidential because they have student information on them. I kind of find that hard to believe, that it's something that could probably be recycled year after year, and that year's information, the students' information, could probably be removed because the lesson plans, I would think, would be electronic. So I'd like to understand, especially with the changes with the health and sex curriculum, well, what changes are going to be done, and how are you going to communicate that to me, the parent? And then also, I do see that the survey came out today. I'd like to know that once the results are in, will they be posted publicly? And then, finally, the referendum. What I would really, I think, like to know is there somewhere maybe on the website you can point me to, can you show me now for this past school year, what was the percentage of the budget that was allotted to the facilities, to HR, to classroom materials, to the lawsuits, and then what percentage of the referendum might go towards paying for those as well? I just need some clarity and understanding where 40 million some odd dollars will go, because if the referendum were to tomorrow, I would vote no. I don't have enough confidence. I don't feel there's enough transparency, and I definitely feel there's a large lack of communication. On Mr. Nausser's presentation, he said something that there was a communications committee. I'd like to understand who's on that committee and what is their role, because I think they have a large job ahead of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment?
My name is Maren Barbier. I hate microphones, so forgive me. My husband is at his own district's board meeting tonight, so I'd just like to take a minute to speak on his behalf and on behalf of my family. Rather than getting up here and saying something cross, we'd like to simply say thank you. The job you are doing is a volunteer one, and we thank you for giving your time and service to this community. We understand that in the most normal of times, your job is a challenging one, understanding the needs of the district and setting goals and standards for the students and teachers therein to achieve success. These are not normal times, not even close. And still, you're here, working to address the unique landscape of the past 2 years and to continue helping our children grow and flourish. Every district has its challenges, and Wall is certainly dealing with its fair share. Ours have been laid bare, scrutinized, and judged with excruciating detail. And while there are certainly problems that need corrective action, remediation, or a complete overhaul, we hope you will also remember that the successes of this school district are the result of your efforts, your attention, and your dedication to all schools. There is always more we can ask of our school district. We can and we should strive for improvement. We should closely examine our strengths and our weaknesses, keep a watchful eye on our assets and liabilities, but we should also thank those willing to do the heavy lifting when we cannot or will not do the work ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment. I want to clarify something. A couple things, actually. In regards to Ms. Cross saying that there was a court order for a picture, let's set the record straight. Ms. Cross's Oprah complaint necessitated a virtual hearing. While the virtual hearing was open to the public, Ms. Cross took unprecedented steps of posting the virtual link to her Facebook page without appropriately notifying the court in order to allow the court to make the necessary arrangements. At that time, Ms. Cross's Facebook profile picture was that of her son. Her son's picture appeared on each and every one of Ms. Cross's Facebook posts until she recently had changed it. When the Facebook post was brought to the attention of the court, it necessarily had the picture of her son attached to it as her profile picture. When Ms. Cross requested that the post be removed from the court filing, the court asked both parties to consent to this process, which they did, and then the picture was removed. There was no court order, it was asked, and the district never had an issue with it, and from day one said, yes, you can remove it. In regards to student matters, I know it's very frustrating, and we certainly hear everything you say. Last June, I believe it was, the Supreme Court put out a ruling that had somewhat of a negative effect on school districts and what it can do in regards to discipline to students outside of campus. Not saying that there's still not things that can be done, but it did have a little bit of an effect on what districts can do when kids are outside of school and misbehaving. But Dr. Handerhan could probably touch a little bit more on that. I will turn it over to you, Dr. Handerhan.
Yes, just to follow up on the conversation that you started. It was the Supreme Court regarding social media and cheerleaders. So we can absolutely post some information about that Supreme Court decision. But I would like to add that school consequences speak to the Student Code of Conduct, which is set by the Board of Education, the Student Code of Conduct. And currently, it is only through harassment, intimidation, and bullying reporting and consequences for a confirmed HIB that school disciplinary consequences can be assigned. That being said, there are other things that schools can do in a therapeutic that are therapeutic in nature. There are things that a school can do educationally in nature. The schools, and this is not just Wall Township, school districts are limited to what disciplinary consequences that can be imposed for things that take place outside of school. The exception being confirmed harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases. That being said, that Supreme Court decision even challenges HIB consequences. So I just want to clarify that, because truly there is no, I know I've been hearing since last November about things being swept under the rug. Things are not being swept under the rug. Things are dealt with. Sometimes it's very frustrating because, there's school law, and sometimes there's common sense, and sometimes there's legal aspect to it. School districts, it's complicated, and you're also dealing with, for 99% of the students, you're dealing with minors, which adds another layer. Speaking of minors, it is because students are minors that any type of student information is it's confidential. We can't share. We can't give updates. I know some members of the public would love, an accounting of, this is someone's third offense, this is someone's second offense. That it's not possible. We collect the data. The data cannot be associated to an individual child. The school district also deals with personnel matters, and personnel matters are also confidential, and we're precluded from discussing as such. There are investigations that are still going on from the state agencies regarding the hazing events. So there are things that, if I were a member of the public and one of the speakers here tonight asked to put yourself in the position of a parent. I am a parent. My children are older. I do not live in Wall Township. But I can tell you, as a parent, there's a continual thirst for information. And I know as a parent, it's frustrating when you don't have all of the information. But that said, when you're dealing with confidential matters, and certainly in some of the issues that we dealt with in the fall, there was a layer of criminality to it. You cannot speak to these matters. So while I understand that there is a need for more information, and the need for, and the lack of the information that we're able to give you is being, is being painted by a brush of we're not being transparent, I don't think that's a fair assessment. We're able to share and communicate what we are able to. And as I'd like to slide into communication a little bit, one of the speakers this evening asked, they wanted to know who was on the communications committee. Well, the communications committee is actually being developed. During Mr. Nazar's video, he indicated that if you are interested in participating, that to reach out. So that was looking for people to become, positive contributors to the referendum. The referendum is, as discussed earlier this evening, it is a wonderful opportunity for the Wall Township School District, public schools, to invest in their students. There's an opportunity with referendums for specific projects to get a great deal of state funding, up to 40% for specific projects. If we did not move forward with a referendum, we would be leaving money on the table, monies that could possibly enhance the students' educational experience, enhance the working conditions for all of the employees. And I ask that you look at our school facilities as they're an investment. They're an investment, just like in a home. A home is an investment. In order to keep your investment sound, you need to replace the roof. You need to update the electric. There are things that must take place. And over the next couple months, it is going to become very apparent. We are going to give tremendous amount of detail with, certainly the architects are going to be out. We're going to have other professionals sharing what types of projects are on the referendum. Prior to going out for referendum, we need to submit every potential project to the New Jersey Department of Education. That process has begun. We have not received all of the information back from the NJDOE. That we are waiting for that so that we can be more specific with the approved projects. We can't share information about projects until we get the approval to move forward. So you see, there is a definite order, and there is an absolute willingness to share this information. One of our board members became a parent last night, and it was so important for him to share the message that he, with this hospital band on his wrist, made a video so that he could share his enthusiasm and the necessity for this project in the spirit of transparency, to share with you what he can. He did that after the birth of his child. I ask you to consider the context of that. That is the degree of commitment that members of this volunteer Board of Education, that's what they commit. That is the level of commitment that they have. So I ask I ask you to when you hear things, about not being transparent, think about all the things that this Board of Education is doing to be inclusive in this school district. I would like to say that I want to mention that there was a speaker this evening discussing wanting to know the principal assignments. That is a very fair ask. And I respect that question because that is one question that I absolutely will be bringing up tonight. There are orders and procedures that need to take place when you're moving when personnel is moving around. There needs to be official transfers before there needs to be official transfers, and it's happening at a time where there's renewals taking place. So from a calendar perspective, it is it's challenging. But I will tell you that there is a tremendous amount of work going on behind the scenes, and that we will absolutely share this information as soon as possible. And I'm not talking about August, I'm talking in the very near future. In the very near future, it is not fair to children to not know who their principal is going to be. It is not fair to the staff, and it is not fair to the parents. And that is something that I fully understand, having been a parent, having been a principal, having been a teacher. So I represent every bucket, and people need to know. And I know it's frustrating because it would be nice to have had everything wrapped up in a bow. It just couldn't happen tonight, but the goal is to wrap this up as efficiently and as timely as possible, because I am very sensitive to those needs. And there was another question about Allenwood Kindergarten. Allenwood Kindergarten, there is a district policy where there are preferred maximums that are set by board policy. And I will tell you that in the lower grades, kindergarten, first grade, they're lower than the class size. The maximums are lower than they are in fourth and fifth grade. So the class sizes of fourth and fifth grade, they are bigger, the maxes. Wall Township, Wall Township Board of Education and the community is obligated to educate every child in Wall Township. We are obligated to provide a thorough and efficient education. There is a strong tradition of neighborhood schools in this township. There are limiting factors to the sizes of schools. There are limits to the number of seats that can be placed safely in classrooms. There's class limits. There's also, and this predates me, there are class limits to, keeping ratios of student to teachers to have as an ideal learning environment as possible for the students. It is possible to have class sizes in the 30s. School districts are doing it. That is not the intention of this board. That is not what the board policy reflects. The goal is to provide the best teacher-student ratio as possible, and then you add the factors of school size. Some responses, when I've spoken to some parents, and all parents that have inquired about being on the waiting list in Allenwood have received communication back, phone calls, emails. They have been responded to. It is difficult to have these conversations because, from my understanding, parents had, I want my child to go to a particular school. I bought a house in a particular neighborhood. And in most cases, that happens without incident. But in the case of Allenwood School, there aren't any extra classrooms to open up to open up other sections. And there is fiscal responsibility that has to be weighed with that. While Allenwood is having an enrollment bump right now, we have seats to accommodate the students in other schools. And sometimes it is necessary to have the students assigned to a different school. It's because there isn't any room. And the school district does provide transportation for students that are moved to another district because of enrollment. These are difficult conversations to have with families. Some families have requested very, very specific information, and I will say that there are waiting lists, and there have been waiting lists in years past. I will say some parents, ultimately, while registering their students, they choose to pick up, some move. Some decide that they want to send their children to private school, and some decide that they would like to homeschool their children. There are a lot of things that happen over the summer, and enrollments in kindergarten are filled. They're filled by date of registration, and for the students that are on the waiting list, they will get called back when there's a slot by date of registration, and that is how it's taken care of. And again, it is not something that we take lightly. It's the implementation of a board policy to provide an ideal educational environment for all of our students. Our elementary schools are fantastic. They are great. I am proud of the work that the staff that they're doing, and some families, they're on waiting lists, and there's not a day that goes by that the enrollments are not checked to see if we can move someone off the waiting list. I will tell you, the last 2 summers that I've been here, we have been able to move students off the waiting list. And I do hope that tradition will be able to continue. I ask for patience from families that are in that position, and know that our goal is to get you to the home school if we are physically able to do so. Specific numbers regarding enrollments, they are published on board agendas. And next year's enrollments will absolutely will start being published. Regarding, I just want to go back to leadership notifications. In a perfect world, like I said, we would be able to announce all of the changes from all of the district leadership, the district principals, all at one time, and be able to send out a communication to staff and a communication to parents. Transfers and appointments are not official until the board acts. While it is wonderful, and I wish that I could share information in a formal context, because when the superintendent sends a letter, it's a formal document. It just can't be done until the board action. So I know it's incredibly frustrating, but know that certainly after this evening's meetings, families will be notified of the updates. And I will tell you that the other principalships and the other district administrative positions, they will be announced and filled very quickly. I look forward to making more announcements to you. And with that, I think I probably took a little too much time on the microphone, Mr. Adonisio, but I just wanted to provide some clarifying points. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Handerhan.
Oh, there is one more thing.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry about this. There was a question about the new health standards. The standards are going to be rewritten this summer. There has been a lot of training, a lot of work that has taken place already. There will be a building-based approach to this summer. There will be meeting when the curriculum is written, when all of the resources are identified. They will be communicated through the individual buildings, and there will be parent presentations, and parents will be provided with timelines of when specific information will be discussed in the new standards. So we are looking to be as transparent as possible, and we look forward. We will have a very busy summer, I can tell you, preparing for it, but just know that we want to provide families with as much information as possible so that they can make the best decision for their individual family. Okay, now I'm really done.
Thank you, Dr. Handerhan. Any board members have anything? Yes, Mrs. Hodman.
I just have 2 points. One thing I wanted to mention it's on the agenda, we approved it, was a grant that continues our consulting work with mental health associations of Monmouth County. So we will be continuing that again next year. It's also updated every month on the curriculum and instruction agenda. So the work is continuing to be done in the school. We do care very much about the social and emotional needs of our students and how teachers and building staff can do the best job supporting them when they're trained with the Lifelines curriculum. And then the other thing is in the May curriculum and instruction minutes, we had a presentation by Mrs. Tiffany Steiner about the the teaming that will happen at Wall Intermediate School. And I have no doubt that even with the transfer, this will continue because everybody on the board, if I could speak for us, and everybody at the school is excited for this change that will do a lot to support students' social, emotional, and academic needs.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Sanfilippo.
Super loud. As a parent of one child who just had his graduation ceremony at Old Mill School, as a parent of a child who is now graduating 8th grade who went through Old Mill, and a parent of a child who is in 2nd grade at Old Mill, I would like to thank the staff and I would like to thank Mr. Laughlin. It's been a wonderful experience. So I appreciate that. And you guys came up here talking. I'm sometimes very emotional. I have tears in my eyes. So I just wanted to say that. Another thing, when we talk about referendums, I sit in this cafeteria and I think that I used to play cards right over there, and I used to eat here my freshman year, and I ate there my sophomore year, and it's the same building. We've talked about trailers in the past, and the trailers were born out of a failed referendum. We're talking about wait lists for kids coming into our schools. If you look around, there is turnover. The real estate market is hot. People want to come down to the shore. People want to come and leave the cities and come here. This is why we need a referendum. This is why when Adam, who had a baby yesterday and, you know, commits to putting, you know, this video together, I mean, it's important. It is important. We need more classrooms. I remember when I first came on this board, they were talking about shutting down West Belmar. I mean, because, and we talk about declining enrollment all the time. Well, that's not happening, you know, at our elementary schools. There is more and more and more people coming here. There is more building that is going on. It is extremely important that this referendum get passed. And, you know, I'm not on the Finance and Facilities Committee, but we're doing this in a responsible manner in the hopes to have flat taxes. I see posts on social media that's going to cost this much for every taxpayer. No, we're talking about having no tax impact the best way that we can. So, I mean, those are things that I think are important for the community to understand. Look, I'm not a guy who sits here and, you know, pats himself on the back for being on the Board of Education, but I will say this for this board, that everybody here sits up here you know, take scuff and whatever else, and we all signed up for it, you know, so there's no boo-hoo, you know, so sorry for us. We know what we jumped into, and, you know, we're big kids, we'll handle it, we'll take, you know, we do our best. We do it through a lot of things that you guys don't know, sicknesses, deaths, births, all sorts of different things, okay? So I think it's important for the community to understand that everybody here is working the best way that we can. Everybody here wants, you know, these kids in these schools, our children, our staff, our administrators, everybody, to come back to school and be excited about it. We've had a rough couple years, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, and it's been tough. The one lady who was saying, like, this summer, et cetera, we need to do all these different things. We need to do that together as a community, not just as a board, all right? And that starts with having, you know, pleasant discussions to some degree, having, you know, constructive, you know, conversations. That's what's going to elevate this community, and that's what I wanted to say, so thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Stites?
It has been an interesting couple of years, but I thank our staff from the bottom of my heart for hanging in there. We wouldn't have done it without you. I think it's important for the community to understand that the folks that sit here remain committed to this community. Regardless of the narrative that's occasionally told, and regardless of some of the vitriol that's spewed on social media, we're dug in, and we are going to continue to move forward. This district has fabulous kids, fabulous staff, and it is a great community to live in. So I think we've had a lot of positive things happen. We continue to move forward. And I wish everybody a great summer, great graduations, and congratulations to all the kids that are graduating from their different schools. Congratulations to our staff members who are going to new places. And hope you guys have a good summer.
Thank you. Mr. Smythe, did you have anything?
Yeah, sorry, I should have spoke before the board members.
No, that's okay.
Spoke on a more positive note. I just want to clarify one point and answer two of the questions that were asked. With regard to transparency, redactions of documents that are provided in response to Oprah. The one in question was over 1,400 pages. But every redaction, and redaction is when something's blacked out on a document, you have to have a legal basis for that redaction. You can't just black out information on a document without a legal basis for that redaction. This request in question went to our board attorney. They performed all the redactions. There was 30 pages identifying what each of those redactions were based on, the legal, whether it was confidential information related to personnel or related to student matters. But each one of them is identified, so it's not just arbitrarily removed or blacked out, but there's a legal basis for it. In most cases, there's an obligation by the district as the employer of the staff, or because we're a school district and it contains personal identifiable information of a student that it's required to be redacted. But with regard to the question on the how funds are spent in the district, on the district's website, if you go to the user-friendly budget information, it brings you to the page where the presentation, the public hearing that was done in April, identifies the breakdown of the budget on a percentage basis in the different categories. We do it two ways, one by program and one by function. So we break it down by regular education, special education, in one category, administration, the different departments, transportation, but then we also break it down by function, which would identify how much is spent on salaries, how much is spent on benefits, how much is spent on supplies, purchase services. So that breakdown of how the budget is budgeted and therefore how it's spent is provided. And if there's any follow-up questions to that, you can contact me. And then lastly, with regard to specifically how funds from a referendum would be spent, funds from a referendum could only be spent on the items that are included in the question that is asked of the voter. So our questions are going to be facilities in nature, they're going to be facility improvements, they're going to be identified, and the district can only spend those funds on the projects that will be included in the question. And additionally, those projects that have been approved by the Department of Education, those funds cannot be used for other purposes such as litigation, salaries, or anything else that may have been tossed out there. It would only be for the facility improvements that were approved by the Department of Education and were included in the question put to the voters.
Mr. Smythe, so you said something that I don't think maybe we were aware of. You know, we hear about Oprah, we see the Oprahs, but so when someone is given something that's redacted because it's personnel in nature, pending, whatever it might be, they are also given the reason why that specific item or page had a redaction on it?
Yes, every item that is redacted, it's required to have a legal basis provided for that redaction.
So someone's not getting an Oprah request returned to them with 15 pages and there's redactions, and they know exactly why it's redacted?
Absolutely. That's a requirement of the law.
Oh, all right, great, thank you. Any other board members?
Yes, I'd like to talk about
Yes,
the
Mr. Wonder.
lacrosse game that happened last Friday, and it's a testimony to the students in Wall Township. And the Wall Township varsity played the New Jersey State Police. And it was a fast-moving game. It was a very well-played game. And Wall Township won 10-9. Now, when the game was over, each individual Wall player stepped center field, took off his game jersey, and awarded it to a police officer. He awarded it to Wall Police, Neptune City, Manasquan, police officer from Syracuse, New York, police officer from Jersey City, and several state troopers. And this was done individually, one at a time. And it just an event that showed so much respect towards law enforcement. And you never hear or see these things, but very good, and it shows what kind of students we have. Thank you.
Thank you, that's great to hear. Any other board members? Dr. Henry, did you?
Yes, with respect to senior walk, that was another item that was asked about. The senior walk is not a Wall Township Public Schools overarching event. It's a Wall High School event, and the event is for Wall High School students. So students that attend Wall High School, that is who's receiving a Wall diploma. That's the makeup of the trip.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other.
There
Mr.
was
Wonder.
one other thing I want to add to that. All the proceeds from that event went to a Wall student who is battling cancer. And it's the first annual event, so they have intentions of doing this every year. Thank you.
That's great. Okay. Seeing no other business, could we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.